Hey, I'm talking to you, McFly, you Irish bug. Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think, McFly, think.
So ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this week I went down to my local Cineworld to watch Uncharted for the pricely sum of £6.99. Was it worth it? No. Can I get my life back? No. Can I get a witness? I don't know, Your Honour. You tell me. So while I was sat through this film, I had three lovely young ladies sat behind me. Now, normally at this stage, I would get up and move to another row in the cinema, but something said to me, stick around, Jace. This might be worth your time. It might be worth a few shits and giggles. And guess what? It was the latter, because they were the Tom Holland fan club, oohing and ahhing at Tom every time there was a topless scene of Tom on screen. That was funny to behold. But when we had the sidekick, Mark Wahlberg, and the other antagonist, who we'll talk about in a minute, you can clearly hear there's a big thumbs down going on behind me. So I thought that was pretty amusing. And I can't blame him. Now, Tom Holland with his shirt off doesn't make any sense for the role itself, because if you play the video games like I have, and I do consider myself a true super fan, unlike those idiots for the Rings of Power on Amazon Prime, I can tell you for a fact that the Nathan Drake in the video games is more fleshed out, more nuanced. He's an older version. He doesn't go weight training in the gym. He actually develops his athleticism through the fact that as a young kid, he was running, jumping, and getting into fights. So that makes a lot of sense. So for this film version to take that approach is a little bit odd, but unfortunately nowadays, very, very predictable. Now, the road from video game to movie screen has been a very uncharted journey for this franchise, because it's been stumbling everywhere. The first time we knew that it might be made into a movie starring then Mark Wahlberg was David O. Russell. Not David O. Russell from Ireland. David O. Russell, you know him from films like The Fighter with Christian Bale, and for me the one that sticks out is Three Kings with George Clooney, Ice Cube and Spike Jonze, especially for that scene where they're driving along and you hear Chicago. If you leave me now, you take away the very part of me. Ooh, baby, please don't go. Oh, those were the good times. And then of course, Mark Wahlberg, you know him for famous lines as, hey, what are you doing, kid? What are you doing? Hey, come on, what are you doing? Hey, Ted. He does that all the time. He brings that limited acting ability to the role of Victor Goddamn Sullivan. If you play the games, Victor Sullivan is voiced by Richard McGonagall, one of the best actors around. McGonagall used to be in the Navy, so while you never hear about Sully's naval exploits in the games, you get that gravitas behind the gravelly voice. Mark Wahlberg does not have a gravelly voice. He's got the big muscles, but nobody at this stage actually cares. Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. It just takes me out of the picture completely, because at the end credits, we've got Tom with dark hair, and I thought they could have used that version because Nathan Drake has dark hair, but for some reason he's blonde haired Tom and or mousy brown haired, and somehow that kind of works, but for me it didn't. It's just a really shoddy play. They reused the same director they used for the first Venom, Ruben Fleischer. They seem to reuse the same boring sets, and I don't understand how this film got made. Gore Verbinski, the man behind the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, he was rumored to have been attached to this film. I think if he had, he would have been a bit more inventive with the set pieces, because literally while I'm watching this film, I'm saying, that's Uncharted 3, or that's Uncharted 1. They're taking a lot of assets from those games and basically reimagining them for the film version. In fact, the scene on the cargo plane from Uncharted 3, the red car in the sequence, I'm sure it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off's car. Or it's a knowing nod to it. Obviously, the Ferris Bueller joke was in Spider-Man Homecoming as well, so somehow it finds its way here, which is nothing to do with the Spider-Verse. And you know, Tom Holland, good actor. He's very capable of being better than that, but here it feels like he's being Spider-Man 2.0, but he's just called Nathan Drake. That's it. It's just so bizarre. Now, of course, Mark Wahlberg is no stranger to a movie that's been adapted from a video game. You all remember Max Payne from 2008. It was a pain to watch, let alone endure by name. I mean, he was okay in the lead role as Mr. Payne. Then he had Mila Kunis as Mona Sachs, and I thought she was terrific. But the worst casting choice ever, Jim Bravura, if you've played those games, he was portrayed by Ludacris. No. I know what you're all saying, yeah, oh Jason, you always have a go at the race swapping of an actor for a particular role. Well, get over it, because that particular case, it really sucked as well. And Ludacris sucks also, so why they got him to, and even more painful, he's Jim Bravura in front of James McCaffrey, the voice actor behind Max Payne in the video games. So that was just a big punch to the nuts and the balls. I hated every moment of it. But the biggest cringe factor of this film, I've got to say, is two. Antonio Banderas. I never ever thought I'd say that. Now, he plays a guy called Mancada, and he's just sleepwalking his way through the role. And Antonio Banderas, this was a guy, I think he's been strangled metaphorically in his marriage to Melanie Griffiths. If you don't know their history, she got insanely jealous of his really peaking, blossoming acting career when he was in the first Zorro movie with the 1998 Catherine Zeta-Jones. If you haven't seen Blue Juice, check her out in that. Ooh, my God. So she didn't like the fact they were getting intimate on the film set, as in for their characters, not off screen. And ever since then, she's become this very possessive person over Mr. Banderas. I think it's affected his career somewhat, but him being the gentleman, he doesn't really kind of air that out in the public, but that's what I've picked up on for many years. So he's the main big baddie of the film, but his second in command is Joe Braddock, basically played by Tati Gabrielle, the dude behind the dude, dressed as another dude. Well, halfway through, she kills him and takes over the role. Now, what's really quite funny, before she does this execution of him, she gets her ass handed to her by Sully. Now, take this article here from the Hollywood Reporter, Uncharted star Tati Gabrielle on powerful female villains, the joyful Antonio Banderas, and that Sully backstory. The Sully backstory is corny as hell. I don't buy a word of it or what they've actually conjured up. It's so stupid. The actual proper Sully backstory is the one you should be looking at from Uncharted 3. And the whole powerful female villains. I mean, come on, this is a puff piece. It's all about diversity, like you need that to play a female villain, let alone one who isn't half Korean, half African. That is Miss Gabrielle's ethnicity. But that's where the buck stops. I mean, she's not a great villain. I tell you what, she's not as bad as Lasagna Lynch in No Time to Die. Nowhere as cringe as that. She's cringe in many other different ways. I mean, if she's meant to be the female baddie, why isn't her army made up of more female mercenaries? Why is it all men? Men who are just as stupid as she is. And oh boy, check out this really cringe interview from Comic News or comicbook.com. When I saw this, I was like, oh my God, here we go.
And possibly see her again, and so just making her as thorough as possible.
Yeah, I'm hoping for Uncharted 2 because I really liked the movie. So speaking of seeing her again, I'm fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, now the other things I want to discuss really quickly about this film, Neil Druckmann, the second worst thing to happen in the world of video games. Who's the first? Anita Sarkeesian, the woman who ruined Mass Effect Andromeda. So video game developers, if I were you and you hear that Anita Sarkeesian is about to knock on your door, board up the windows, get double barricades everywhere, because anywhere she goes, it just turns to complete shit. And of course, the reason why I mentioned Anita Sarkeesian, because Neil Druckmann really does cuck up to her. It's kind of really bad to watch and very embarrassing. Well, on the executive producers list, he's somewhere there. But his real job was making cups of coffee, just like Kathleen Kennedy, for the main director and other people ahead of him in the roll call of the credits. But my favorite cameo in this film, and I called it, I said it, Nolan North is a hotel guest. It's a very funny scene. I was laughing my ass off when he turned up, and that's why I said in my reaction to his reaction on his Retro Replay channel, which has now become something else, that he wasn't bad-mouthing the movie because I believed he actually was in the film, and I called it. And for me, the best moment in the film was that moment I just described. If I can clip it and upload it later on a future video, I will, because I think unless you play the game, unless you're a big fan of Nolan North like I am, you won't understand why that scene was so funny. So I'm glad it was there, and it was inevitable they would do it if they didn't. But you know what? Ahead of all of that, Amy Hennig gets a special thanks towards the end of the film, and I thought, you know what, you guys did right. And you know, the reason why I have such a dislike for Neil Druckmann as well, he was slowly overtaking the video games. By the time they got to Uncharted 4, it was a way different beast to what it began out with, because Amy Hennig was still involved, that had some really good, Alan Tudyk was meant to be the villain of the piece, and somehow all his lines, all his hard work was cast aside. Neil Druckmann wanted to go in a really weird direction. I'll tell you what he was doing. He was road testing the awful female character of Nadine Ross. Remember there's a whole big fuss about this black woman being voiced by a white actress. It was kind of funny at the time. Of course, you know, Sony just like, no, there's nothing wrong with that, carry on, whatever. But the character of Nadine Ross was the prototype for Abby, who we would later see in The Last of Us Part 2. If you don't believe me, go and play the game and you'll see what I am talking about. So for me, he ruined that game. He also ruined the fact, and this is such a contradictory thing as well. Like, at the end of the game, Nathan Drake was supposed to have a baby boy, he and Elena, but some idiots at Naughty Dog were saying, well, why can't he have a baby girl? And Neil Druckmann sat back and thought, what does the sex of a baby matter? And so if it didn't matter, why did he still change it from a boy to a girl? It is so weird. You know, sticking a weird feminist agenda into a video game. Oh my God. And I guess when I mention Neil Druckmann here is because he is obviously championing for a female antagonist. And it didn't quite work out, did it, Neil? So I'm kind of glad it didn't. Sony just wanted to do their own thing, and that was it. I've got to say, Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser, totally unforgettable, as flat as a pancake, including her own arse. Because if you play the video game, one of Claudia Black's, I mean, she's the OG, she's the voice actress for Chloe Fraser, stipulated I'll only voice her if she's got a great arse, and they gave Miss Fraser a great arse in the video game. So that is a plus point for me. So on that one, folks, that has been my review for Unfarted, not Uncharted. Was it worth my time? No. Is it worth your time? No. Is it worth it for that Nolan North scene that lasts for about 1 minute? Absolutely. Is the action good? It's fair. Is it mind-blowing? No. Does it rip off the games to a degree? Yes, it does. So folks, if you enjoyed this video today, don't forget to smack that like button right in the face, hit the subscribe button, and if I were you, I'd see me on my next video.
Hail to the king, baby. This is Duke Nukem, and you've been watching Jason King for Kung Fu Hot Dog Reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe, because the king said so. You got that?